Hi, we're out on the range today, so bear with gunfire you hear in the background. Today we're talking about the Taurus Judge revolver again. So today is Taurus Judge Review Part 3. Now first let me do a brief recap of what the Taurus Judge is. It's this rather unique looking 5-shot double action revolver with a swing out cylinder. It's in caliber .45 Colt and it will also shoot .410 shotgun ammunition. Well, the first thing you might ask is, what are you supposed to do with a gun like that? Well, it's marketed for home defense, concealed carry, and a gun that you can use in the field to fend off dangerous animals. For example, when loaded with .410 birdshot, you can dispatch snakes with it. What really sets this gun apart from most other handguns is the wide variety of ammunition it can shoot. .45 Colt pistol ammunition, .410 bore shotgun ammunition to include birdshot, buckshot, and a whole bunch of different types of specialty ammunition made mainly for the Judge revolver, like the PDX-1 Defender ammunition that's loaded with 4 defense disc projectiles. They look like watch batteries. And that's backed up by 16 pellets of copper-plated BB-sized shot, and we shoot that in Part 2. It's really an interesting ammo. And you can also shoot .410 shotgun slugs out of this. Well, before we go any farther, let me show you a close-up of what .410 slugs look like. Now here's some typical .410 shotgun ammunition. You got birdshot, a lot of little pellets, buckshot, a few big pellets. This is triple-aught buck, and in the Taurus Judge, this is probably your most common self-defense type load. And here's your slugs. Now this one on your left is a Winchester. It's labeled on the box as a 1/5 ounce, which comes out to be about a 93 grain projectile. And on the right is the Federal, which is labeled on the box as a 1/4 ounce, which is about a 110 grain projectile. So that's what shotgun slugs look like. Now you might ask, what are they for? Well, let me see if I can demonstrate that. Shotgun slugs have 2 main purposes. Now let me shoot these 2 targets and I'll illustrate one of those. And this Mossberg 12 gauge will be a better demonstration tool for this point than the Judge will. I've got this shotgun loaded with 12 gauge, 2 3/4 inch double-aught buck 9 pellet, which is a very typical buckshot load. I'm going to shoot the target on the left from a distance of 30 yards. There were 9 pellets of buckshot in that shell, and you can see 4 of them on our shoot and see. A couple of them up here, 2 hits down here, and then there's 1 on the paper, but it actually missed the silhouette. So at 30 yards with that improved cylinder bore barrel, we're just about at the maximum distance that you can keep pretty much all the pellets on the target. So let's paste up our shot holes and go back and shoot that from a greater distance and see what happens. Now I'm at a distance of 50 yards, and I'll shoot the target on the left with 2 rounds of buckshot. When I fired from 30 yards, I fired 1 shot, so 9 pellets went downrange, 8 of which hit our target. When I fired from 50 yards, I fired 2 shots, so 18 pellets went downrange, only 7 of which hit the target. The farther you shoot buckshot, the more it spreads out and the less effective it becomes. So if I were to shoot 70 or 80 yards with this, you might very well not have any impacts on the target. Now let's shoot the target on the right, and we'll go back and we'll shoot 50 yards and we'll shoot with slugs and see how that affects our accuracy. And there you have it. With buckshot at 50 yards, you're getting out there pretty close to the end of your maximum effective range. With slugs, you can hold them on target at 100, 150, even 200 yards with the right shotgun. So one of the main purposes of slugs is they turn your shotgun into a de facto rifle and greatly increase your maximum effective range. One main purpose of the slug. These cinder blocks will help me illustrate the other main purpose of a slug. I'll shoot the cinder block on the left with 3 rounds of our double-aught buck, and then the cinder block on the right with 1 slug. And we'll shoot from 20 yards. Well, shooting those cinder blocks is kind of cool, but the main thing we get from our Mossberg 12 gauge demonstration is that the two main purposes of a shotgun slug are to greatly increase your maximum effective range, or, like we saw in the cinder blocks, to hit really hard. Okay, how does that translate to the Taurus Judge? Well, mainly the same two things. If you're going to shoot instead of buckshot or birdshot out of this, a single projectile round, like your .45 Colt ammo, will greatly increase your maximum effective range, or hit really hard. But if you were going to do that, wouldn't you just load with .45 Colt ammunition? Why would you bother with .410 slugs? Are there anything they'll do that .45 Colt ammo won't? Let's shoot some and see if we can find out. So we've seen that shooting a single projectile round will increase your accuracy at longer ranges. But how will a .410 slug compare to .45 Colt ammo? Well, for .410 slugs, I've got this Winchester .410 2.5-inch 1/5 ounce slug. And for .45 Colt, I've got Federal American Eagle .45 Colt 225 grain semi-jacketed soft point bullet. So we'll go back to 25 yards and we'll shoot the .45 at the target on your left and the .410 slugs at the target on your right, and we'll see how they compare for accuracy. And there's the results. The .410 slugs just do not shoot as accurately as the conventional .45 Colt ammunition does. So how will .410 slugs compare with .45 Colt in terms of power? Well, for our .410 slug, we're going to use the Federal 1/4 ounce slug, which should be among the more powerful slugs. And for .45, we'll use our Federal American Eagle ammo 225 grain bullet. Now, the thing with .45 Colt ammo is how powerful it is can vary greatly depending on the brand or configuration you buy. Some of it is loaded down to about the same ballistics as the original black powder rounds would have been in the 1870s. Some of it is loaded so hot that it borders on .44 Magnum ballistics. This ammo should fall about the middle of that scale. So we'll go back 7 yards and we'll shoot our favorite target, soda jugs, each one backed up by a gallon jug of water, and we'll see if we can see any difference. So the .45 Colt and the .410 slug. So how'd we do? Well, at first glance it might seem like the slug was a lot more effective, but the .45 Colt went completely through this. The slug, it just knocked this jug over. It's still full of water. And the slug is in there. So let's reset this up and try it again and see if we get any different results. So we've set up some more jugs, and we'll shoot the ones on your left with the .45 Colt and the ones on your right with the .410 slug, and we'll shoot from 7 yards again. So after doing this a second time, our results were exactly the same as they were the first time, up to and including me getting drenched in cheap dollar store soda. Our .45 Colt put a hole through our water jug, split it pretty well, it's basically empty. The .410 slug, although it seemed impressive when it blew up that soda jug, it barely penetrated the water jug. It just barely managed to put a hole in here. In fact, this is still mostly full, and the slug is in there, mushroomed absolutely flat, and I'll show you a close-up of it in just a minute. So although the results seemed impressive, it gets very poor marks for penetration. So let's shoot something else and see if we can compare power in a different way. And there's your slug, and that has mushroomed out flat. That might look impressive, but it flattened out so much that it made its penetration very unimpressive. So let's see how these two rounds compare when shooting cinder blocks. We'll go back 7 yards and I'll shoot the block on your left with 5 rounds of .45 Colt, and the block on your right with 5 rounds of 410 slug. Now these cinder blocks are a lot heavier duty than the ones I normally use, so it's possible neither of these rounds will have all that much effect. But we'll see how they compare. Well, there you go. Was there really any difference between the 45 Colt and 410 slugs? And if there was a difference, was it enough to make a difference? You be the judge. So what can we take away from everything we've done today? Well, there certainly are situations where you're going to want to load your Taurus Judge revolver with a solid projectile round, as opposed to birdshot, buckshot, what have you. And you do that for the same reasons that you'd load a shotgun with a slug. Greater effective range, greater effectiveness. But in that, are 410 slugs a viable option to 45 Colt ammunition? Well, we saw that they're not as accurate. Their effect on the soda jugs, although seemed impressive, the penetration was woefully inadequate. I've gotten better penetration out of 22 long rifle hollow points. In shooting the cinder blocks, there didn't seem to be much difference, but if I had to say one was better, it seemed like the 45 Colt was a little bit. One other thing I want to cover is cost effectiveness. Everything I've shot today is ammunition I've bought in the last couple of days, and prices in your area may vary, but for this box of 5 rounds of Winchester slugs, I paid $4.49. Let me round that off to the nearest penny, $4.50. At that same store, this ammunition was on sale for $38 for a box of 50. So, to make that equal, I'd have to multiply this by 10 for 50 rounds. That'd be $45 compared to $38 for 50 rounds. At a different store, I got these Federal slugs, and they were $6 for this box of 5 rounds. So that'd be $60 for 50 rounds. And this ammunition at that store was $40 for 50 rounds. There certainly are more expensive versions of 45 Colt ammo, but still, big picture-wise, the 410 slug isn't really a cost-effective alternative to 45 Colt. One other thing I want to cover is recoil. Now these heavier slugs, the 1/4 ounce, and that's how it's written on the box, 1/4 ounce. When I weighed these projectiles, they weighed about 110 grains. The 45 Colt ammo I'm using today is a 225 grain bullet, over twice as heavy. You'd expect a lot more recoil. There was almost an imperceivable difference in the recoil when I shot them. If anything, the 410 slugs had more recoil. So what's the bottom line? More cost, more maybe recoil, less accuracy, less effectiveness. I can't come up with a reason why the 410 slug would be a good alternative to just 45 Colt ammunition. So, that having been said, don't try this at home. I'm what you call a professional, and thanks for watching Taurus Judge Review Part 3.